All right, so now that we've finished reading To Kill a Mockingbird, we need to take a look at our final project. And you're going to want to pay close attention on this one because there's a couple of different options that we have for you to choose from. So for the final project, you're going to need to choose one of the following projects for your final. Project A is the Alternative Viewpoints Project. One of the biggest lessons in To Kill a Mockingbird is the importance of viewing things from somebody else's perspective. So for this project, you're going to need to select scenes from the book using your notes as a guide. After all, that's why we took notes, was so that we could use them when it's necessary. You're going to explain the scenes in the form of a journal or an epistolary if you would rather use letter format. But you're going to write them from the perspective of a different character, including how they viewed the events and their understanding of what happened. If it's a scene that the character wasn't physically present for, you also need to include how they learned about these events. So the first thing that you're going to need to do is choose a character from among the following: Atticus, Boo Radley, Jim, Dill, Miss Maudie, Calpurnia, or Anne Alexandra. Each of these characters has very different traits, and they're going to view the same events very differently through different lenses. So in at least 3 pages, double-spaced, you're going to write about 2 or more scenes from the novel explaining what, according to your character, happened and what they think about it. The writing should be in first-person perspective. And again, this writing should be done as either an epistolary or a journal, although the dates are unimportant. And it should also be apparent who the character that you are writing as is. So you don't necessarily need to include their name, but if you said something like, "My brother Atticus," then it would be pretty obvious that you're writing from Anne Alexandra's perspective. And remember, don't just tell me what happened. Tell me what the character thinks about it. Tell me how they understand what they saw or what they heard about. Obviously, Dill is going to embellish everything in a crazy, big, very flourishy manner. Jim is probably going to view something more childish, but also with that strong sense of justice that Atticus has instilled in him. Whereas Anne Alexandra is likely going to view everything according to how it's going to affect her or her family. Now, if that one doesn't appeal to you, if you're not so much into the creative writing aspect, then we can do something that's a little more personal and a little bit more nonfiction. So the second project that you can look at is Project B, Personal Values. So throughout the novel, the characters reveal what values they hold to be the most important. It's the thing that drives them through their decisions, interactions, and daily life. Anne Alexandra values image and reputation. Atticus values his integrity and justice. And Miss Dubose values her independence and her willpower. So for this project, you are going to examine the value that is held in the highest esteem by both you and another person. So it's going to require not only discussing this with somebody whose opinions you trust and care about, but it's also going to require you to examine yourself and ask yourself some hard questions. So you're going to find a person whose opinion you hold in high regard, and you should also make sure that this person is someone who you can trust to answer questions honestly and with introspection. There's people whose opinions I trust, but they don't necessarily take everything seriously, so I'm not entirely sure that their opinions are as reliable for the purposes of this project. You're going to need to interview this person about what personal values are important to them, why they think so, and how they demonstrate that value in their life. Follow-up questions may also be asked if necessary, so don't just stick with those 3 questions. You're going to need to really dig in on this one. From there, you're going to write a 2-page paper over that person and their value, including the answers that they gave. The paper itself should not be question and answer format, but rather a standard essay format. So for instance, if someone were to interview me, I might talk about how education is one of the highest values that I hold because I am who I am because I had really good teachers and because they instilled the value of learning, and because the more I learn, the better I understand life and the better I understand other people, and really all the good things that have happened in my life were because I had educational opportunities. And I feel like the world would be a better place if people had better access to high quality education. So I could talk at length about that, and then somebody would just need to take that and write their understanding of what it is that I said. So less say, what do you value? Education. Why do you value it? Because it's important, blah, 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 blah. And more something like, Mr. Chopper says that he values education because he grew up from a family of teachers and da 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 da. Right? So we would want to write it more like that. Now, the second part of this assignment is kind of the exact same as the first part of the assignment, except instead of talking to somebody else, you're going to focus on yourself. So you need to examine what it is that you hold personally valuable. What is that trait that you think the world would be better off with, or that you at least want to exemplify in your everyday life? So repeat the step one, but instead of another person, you're the subject. So you're interviewing yourself. You're going to need to honestly examine a principle that you hold to be of the highest value, including why you hold it in such estimation and how it impacts your life. How do you show it in the world around you, and how does it affect the way that you see the world? So again, this is kind of a difficult one because you have to really be honest with yourself. But it's also a good skill to have. We should always be able to be honest with ourselves and to examine our own beliefs and why we hold them. Then we're going to repeat step two. So we're going to write that 2-page paper. But again, you're going to use yourself as the subject instead of somebody else. All right. Those are the 2 assignments. Pick the one that you think best reflects who you are and go to it. I can't wait to see what you've come up with.